Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the CPO series hosted by Dragonboat. As always, as you're probably aware, Dragonboat hosts the CPO series and has been doing so for the last couple of years, where we have chief product officers from all over the industry coming and joining us to share their knowledge. Just a little bit of intro before we dive in and I introduce our guest for today. So Dragonboat enables product leaders to run their product operating platform model on a single platform. It's been adopted by over 4,000 teams in multiple countries, and we manage over $48 billion in annual product investments. So thank you again, and welcome to this session. I'm Sridhar. I am the Chief Customer Officer here at Dragonboat, and with me today, I have Kishore Konakanchi, who is the Chief Product Officer at Chargebee. Kishore is the CPO of Chargebee and former head of checkout product at PayPal. Kishore was at PayPal for 18 years, so he's definitely a payment vet and understands fintech inside and out. And he's a seasoned product leader and thrives on the challenge of developing products at scale. We're hosting him today to learn from his ability to create dynamic teams, aligning them around a shared vision, and energizing them to execute effectively. Well, welcome, Kishore, to today's session.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're talking a little bit about good to great and Chargebee's product operating model. So without further ado, let me hand off to Kishore. It's going to be an interactive session, by the way, just before we dive into it. It's going to be a highly interactive session. I'm going to be Q&Aing with Kishore, so please feel free to ask questions as they come along, and we'll try and answer them as interactively as possible. If not, we'll answer them at the end of the session. So without further ado, Kishore, let's take it away. And let's start off with a little bit about, Chargebee, why it is that you do what you do.
Yeah. Thank you, Sridhar, first of all, for having me here. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. So at Chargebee, we are crafting the future of subscription revenue. Businesses are looking for a predictable stream of revenue. They want to understand the customer behavior better. They want to understand the customer usage patterns and also retain the customers. Subscriptions is a great way to make this happen. And that's what we do at Chargebee. We are focused on creating revenue growth for our customers.
That's excellent. Well, thank you. And this is going to be a pretty exciting session. So I really appreciate you coming on board. And one of the things that we've been focused on a lot is about how, especially more innovative companies set up and execute on their product operating model. So let's dive a little bit into that. And before we do that, though, let's talk a little bit about how you think about your customers and as their needs, because that's ultimately the core of any business and helps derive the operating model. So perhaps you could touch on that.
Yeah. So at Chargebee, customer research is foundational to how we build products. What we did is we mapped the needs of customers at different stages of their business growth. These are very expansive in terms of every stage. From left to the right, a company starts with this probably single product and maybe a single sales motion, all the way to becoming an enterprise, operating a global product with a multi-products in their toolkit, and then finally looking to scale. So we look at the companies at all these stages because we serve companies at all these stages, 6,500 customers. B2B is our business model. And as the company transitions from one phase to another phase, from left to the right, we help them move from left to the right and beyond. That is our goal at Chargebee, to help our customers grow their revenue and grow their subscribers.
That's excellent. So maybe as we think through, it looks like you've been through that evolution. So maybe we could talk a little bit about your product principles and how you've set that up and how that has helped both you and your customers evolve the model.
Yeah. So we build product at Chargebee focused on these 4 product principles. First, we engineer for customer outcomes. Customer outcomes such as the customers want to drive ARR, they want to retain the number of consumers they have on their platform, or they want to expand the lifetime value of existing customers. So that's our first product principle. The second principle is to make the products simple and intuitive. And for us, product is not just the customer experience. It includes our APIs, it includes our documentation, it includes the process that we have with the customer in terms of how we make it easy for them to interact with us for support. So that's number 2. The third one is we stay agile and flexible. We move really, really fast to make the subscription launch happen for our customers. For example, Pret is very similar to Starbucks, but based out of London. They have 600 global locations. And we help them launch their subscription program in just 7 weeks. And they're an enterprise. So we move at the speed of a startup to support an enterprise such as Pret to scale and move faster. 4, we are an open and integrated platform. That means we actually partner very closely with the CRM systems, whether it is Salesforce, so HubSpot, support multiple 37 payment gateways, multiple tax systems, and then ERP systems as well. So we operate with the ecosystem around us, and that's the principle with which we build our product. So these 4 principles basically bring together the needs that you saw in the prior slide to serve those needs, and we bring them together into our product platform.
So this is actually fairly sophisticated in the sense that, well, the fact that you need to be both agile and flexible, and yet you have this pretty giant ecosystem of partners that you work with to ensure that you can deliver your, you can scale your product and deliver the right sort of product suite to your customers, like Pret, for example. So I'm guessing that requires some level of structure to ensure that things are staying on track as you iterate quickly. So perhaps we can spend a little bit of time on that. And I know every customer or every company has their own sort of way of operating in a model that they sort of coalesce around. So perhaps we should spend a little bit of time talking about how that model has been set up at Chargebee and how that has helped you achieve these 4 product principles.
Yeah, happy to. So we bring together the needs and the product principles onto 4 pillars in our platform. The 4 pillars are the 4 pillars as you see them here. It is to help our customers acquire their customers. It is to grow and retain revenue. All these pillars are as seen by our customers. So customers want to grow and retain their revenue. Then they want to scale their financial operations. And number 4, they want to operate with the other revenue systems that are in place, whether it is ERP system or the CRM systems that are in place. We are organized by our customer lifecycle. As you see here, like this is actually the high level lifecycle from left to the right. So this is how we are organized as well in our teams. A group of team members are focused on customer acquisition, helping our customers acquire their customers. And this group is typically composed of a pod of people, and the pod includes product engineering, design, program management, analytics. All this group of people are focused on how can we drive customer acquisition for our customers. Similarly, we have another group of people on the second pillar thinking about how can we help our customers retain their existing customers and retain their revenue. So this is what we refer to as Chargebee's retention product and predictive engagement product, and so on for the other two pillars as well. So, yeah, so we are organized by customer lifecycle, and we are organized by a pod of people that are cross-functional in nature in each of the pillars.
And how do you typically make sure that all of these pods are typically well aligned in both in the planning, in the strategic planning, and in the execution?
Yeah. So we set out the customer objectives and the business objectives we want to achieve for the year at the earlier part of the year, where we start talking about what do we want to achieve from customer retention rate point of view, what do we want to achieve from a customer like CSAT score point of view, customer happiness score, and then what do we want to achieve from a business objective, like what is the revenue growth we want to achieve, what is the customer growth we want to achieve, and we call these strategic objectives. And once we set these strategic objectives, coupled to them are the customer objectives and the business objectives. And under each of these objectives, we have what we call as value creation plan. So what is the value that we create towards customer objective number one? And that would really detail out the different programs we have in place, what are the input metrics and output metrics we set up for each of those programs. So you can say a Scrum team on a daily basis can only act on input metrics. They cannot really act on revenue. So they would focus on, okay, how do I make the onboarding easier? So then you measure the onboarding rate, which is in the control of the Scrum team, which then maps to the revenue growth or the customer growth from a business point of view. So that's how we map the input metrics to the output metrics, and all these ladder up to the portfolio set of outcomes we want to drive.
Before we move on, there's actually a good question that came through from one of the attendees in the audience. It says, when you say product operating model, what does it mean to you? Is it about organizational structure or more than that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. To me, it is more than that. So when we think about operating model, it's about the objectives, the priorities that align to the objectives, and the outcomes that we want to drive. So that is one part of the model. The second part of the model is team structure that the person asked the question. So are we set up, organized towards delivering these objectives? And are we keeping the teams focused on one or two objectives rather than having everyone focus on all the objectives, which dilutes the attention? So that's the second thing, like the team structure. The third is operating cadences, the biweekly cadences and the monthly cadences that we set up with this cross-functional group of people, really tracking our progress and course correcting our plan towards that objective. To me, these three need to come together, which will form the operating model.
That's that's fascinating, and that's typically what we advocate as well, because it's not just the organizational structure that's important, but it needs to be connected both to the objectives and also how you execute against those objectives, and the ability to then look back and make sure that we can course correct if needed in any one of those areas, or we may be under investing in other areas or over investing in others, and the operating model definitely provides that ability to do so. So another question
to also add a little bit about how we define our priorities, which is also a key part of our operating model. Internally, teams do not prioritize features that we work on. We actually prioritize the customer problems we want to solve. That's actually really unique on how we approach our objectives and priorities. So our backlog is that of prioritize a set of customer problems. When we go into planning, we are actually looking at the customer problems we want to solve in that quarter, and then look at the scope of the work that is needed to solve the problem and what is the solution we have. We have moved from prioritizing a set of features to prioritizing a set of customer problems we want to solve, right? And that's been really a defining moment for us to see customers liking the product, using the product, and engaging with the product.
That's actually extremely powerful, and thanks for sharing that, because not many companies make that switch easily and effectively, and to be able to then do that and see the results of it is actually fascinating. But there's actually another question that just came through, which I think we're going to be addressing. It's actually a great segue. So the question was, how do you measure the effectiveness or impact of your product operating model? Which I think maybe touches on this, but perhaps you can touch on that as you talk through the impact on customers.
Yeah. So we have slightly different models, first of all, for is it a 0 to 1 problem, or is it a 1 to N, like scaling a product that we already found product market fit. When it is a 0 to 1 problem, we keep the group focused on the high level problem we are trying to crack and the product market fit we want to discover with that problem. And that team is fairly independent and not disturbed by the overall organizational quarterly planning process, etc. They tend to remain a lot more scrappy until they find the product market fit, and also look to test the idea with a small set of customers, like an early access program, and once you find the product market fit, then the GTM go-to-market function kicks in to really take it at scale. If it is a 1 to N problem, which is like, okay, we already found the product market fit, now it is about scaling. So the go-to-market plan influences the product roadmap and vice versa. So that way there's a tight relationship between product readiness and the ICP of the customer we are targeting. And the marketing, lead gen, and the sales motion is all tied to product readiness and the ICP we are going after. So we measure the effectiveness of these two slightly differently. So the operating model of 0 to 1 is about discovering the product market fit. Okay to have a couple of failures when you're trying to figure out whether it works for the approach works or not. We'll be firm on the intent that that's the problem we want to solve, but we'll be open for approach to that intent in terms of solution 1, solution 2, solution 3, till we find the product market fit. And we measure the success of it based upon how many net new innovations are coming out from this 0 to 1 model that we can really scale. So in the 1 to N model, the success is determined by customer adoption of the product enhancement or feature. It's determined by the number of customers who are continuing to stay with us or churning because of the feature or absence of the feature. And then also the lifetime value or the annual contract value we are looking at, whether is that moving in the right direction. So it will be measured by the customer outcomes and the business outcomes.
That's actually, thanks for clarifying that, because the fact that I think what this highlights is the product operating model needs to be flexible enough depending on the maturity of the product, the maturity of the teams, because there are certain teams, each team has its own set of objectives, and the operating model needs to be able to identify those, and you should be able to track those independently. So I think that's great. There was one other question, but maybe we could talk about it after you talk a little bit about the impact on customers.
Yeah, happy to. So we talked about like customer objectives and outcomes. Here are like a couple of signals that tell us we are making progress in the right direction for the customer. So the objective doesn't need to be grand and big. When we say, hey, I have a big outcome I'm going after, it could be measured in like very atomic metrics. Like for example, when we launch a pricing model, earlier our customers would take 3 to 4 weeks to launch a new pricing model. Now we productized the setup and configuration of pricing with the AI-driven model, And that now, as a result, it happens in minutes, not in weeks, right? So that is an enhancement of productivity from a customer point of view. Then we also looked at like how much manual time are our customers spending in terms of their financial operations and the reconciliation. And we wanted to take the manual time out of their business processes and make it more automated with our product enhancements. So with the enhancements we delivered, we see like 250 plus businesses, they saved over 6,000 hours of manual work or downtime that they put in. And that to us is a validation for it is product enhancement making a difference in the lives of people. Third, customers are looking to go to market faster. So we look at the end-to-end life cycle of what does it take for a billing system or subscription platform to go live, and looked at the different stages of the processes in the life cycle, and identified opportunities to move faster and help our customers move faster, so which reduce the go-to-market time by over 50% for them, right? So what would take typically like 6-7 months from a competitor, it actually takes 2 to 3 months from an enterprise to integrate with Chargebee and go live and begin to operate, right? So these are like very atomic metrics that we pay close attention to see whether are we making a difference in the lives of the customers.
This is again, it's highly quantitative, which is great, but also fascinating because, reducing go-to-market time by 50% for an enterprise, especially an enterprise that's integrating a payment system, and being able to do that in 3 months instead of 7 is huge. And the fact that you guys are able to measure that and highlight that and quantify it must make a huge difference to the product teams in general, and everyone in the company must be excited to be able to say, hey, these are extremely measurable impacts that you can see across the business. So that's great. One thing, there are a couple more questions, but before we do that, I'd like to just open up a quick poll. This is something that we like to do in our webinars. So there's a poll that Alyssa is going to throw up right now. And, you've heard about the product operating model. We'd love to hear from you as to whether you have a product operating model. And if so, how do you use it? Please share your thoughts on the chat channel as well. We'd love to hear if you have one, how you use it, or if you don't have one, are you planning to introduce one within your organization in the next year or so? So please do that. We'll give you a few seconds to do that, and then we'll post the poll results as in a couple of minutes. But as we do that, and as you fill out the poll, Kishore, there was one other question that came up, which I think is worth touching on. And this is classic product management question, which is, do you publish a roadmap to your field teams and your customers? If so, at what level of detail is it? Is it at the feature level, or is it higher than that?
Yeah, happy to answer it. And there are 2 questions in there. So the first one is, do we publish a roadmap? The answer is yes. At the same time, we publish it as an indicative roadmap rather than a locked roadmap, and call it out that the roadmap is subject to change unless it is the immediate quarter that we are executing onto. Right. So if it is the current quarter where the plan is locked and enhancements are coming out, fairly comfortable communicating that to our customers, because we want to show what is coming to the market so that the customer is able to consume what we are building and hopefully get value out of it. The ones that are further out, let us say Q3 and Q4 for this year, we'll give an indicative roadmap and say that this is subject to change based upon the needs of the customers that we serve. But whenever it is changes, we will actually communicate the change roadmap to the field as well. We also request them to not put the roadmap into customer agreements. because the customer agreements should be offering the existing product that is in place rather than a future that we want to sell. And sometimes there is a dialogue between us and the customer on, hey, this feature is really important for me in order for me to come on board. Is there a way you can say you can commit to that roadmap? And it depends upon the strategic deal and the size of the deal. If the opportunity is big enough, then we would say, yes, we will reorder the roadmap. Hence the reason for indicative roadmap. But otherwise, we communicate the roadmap with the caveat that it is indicative. The second question in there was around, is it features or something else? Yeah, we actually communicate the customer problems we are trying to solve and the solutions to those customer problems rather than features. So we had like one slide around the 4 pillars of revenue growth management platform. So what we communicate is under customer acquisition, what challenges are we trying to solve? Under growing and retaining revenue, what customer problems are we solving and what solutions do we put out there to those customer problems? So that's what we communicate. We don't communicate features to the field.
Oh yeah, that's actually great to see that, to take that approach, because it works sometimes and it doesn't work other times. But the fact that it's working for you is awesome. So quick update on the poll, by the way. 92% of people are either already have a product operating model or will have one in the next 12 months. That's fantastic. That's great to see the fact that the importance of the operating model is taking hold across the industry. So that's great to see. So thanks everyone for sharing your views. If you have more detail or if you'd like to share more detail about how you're setting up your product operating model, please feel free to reach out or via our website or directly to Alyssa, and we'd love to learn more about how you're doing that. I know we're almost out of time. So firstly, I'd like to do a couple of things. We do have another upcoming webinar, our third in a 3-part series on measuring product ROI. So Shelley Perry is going to be joining us on May 7 to talk about how to connect various product organization functions and optimize product ROI. So if you are interested, please register and learn more. Anna's just dropped the link as well in the chat.
I just noticed it. So Shelley is a great operator, investor, and also our board member. So good to know that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great connection. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. So yeah, it is a small world out there. So yeah, feel free to join. That's going to be a pretty exciting conversation. Also, feel free to get in touch with Kishore. He's on LinkedIn, and we also have a group demo that we are doing. We do on a periodic basis. We have one on April 25 at 8 a.m. PT. There's a QR code right there, but we'll also send you a link on the chat. So again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Kishore, for your time. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and sharing your insights. Super valuable. And yeah, and all the best with Chargebee, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.